does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Peace, family. This your brother, Mr. Holipsism. Don't really know where this video is going, but for some reason I felt the need to speak. I don't know exactly about what, but I figured it's Christmas. I don't really celebrate Christmas, so it's just another day for me. Actually, the only thing holidays mean for me is extra pay. But I don't know. I guess I wanted to touch on just the kind of reading the room in terms of what the general feeling is in the atmosphere politically. I think that a lot has been revealed lately if you're looking things from a political standpoint, and especially if you're looking at things from the so-called left. I think that what we discovered is that the only way things are going to change in this country is if people make it change, and it won't be through your politicians. And I think that's the thing that I want to talk about, because a lot of people feel like voting people into office or backing some political personality is, that's what it seems to excite people, like just the personality of the individual themselves. And then you realize that, and I'm going to be careful because I don't want to attach intent to anything. I just want to go by actions. What it seems to me is that once you get into the club, and once you get comfortable, and once you get laced up, your sense of urgency goes with that. Perfect example is, and I think that AOC is a case study in what I'm talking about. And not just her, she's like the number one that they always talk about. But since she's the most popular and the one that is like the lightning rod, I think it's fair to use her. This is a woman who did not come from wealth. This was a working class person who was a bartender, and they were, they actually like really worked hard when they were campaigning, when she did her campaign against Joe Crowley. She didn't phone it in. She worked. She went door to door, knocking on doors, meeting people. She was basically looked at as a working class champion for the people. But if you see what she's done when she's gotten into office, she's basically like just rubber stamped everything that the Democratic establishment has wanted to pass. Like whatever bill comes, she can theatrically argue against it on the floor, the House floor, and then turn around and vote for it. Like the CARES Act, she said, oh, this is disgraceful, this is that, da 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 da, and then she voted for it. This latest stimulus bill where you're getting $600, which is like a slap in the fucking face, a one-time payment of $600 when the pandemic has been going on since February. And she'll cry, she'll moan, she'll complain, she'll say that this is disgraceful, da 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 da, and then what does she do? She votes for it. I just recently saw an interview with Nina Turner, who I love. I love Nina Turner. I have nothing bad to say about Nina Turner. But I noticed something that was disturbing. she was being interviewed, and forgive me, I don't remember the person who was interviewing her. I'm sorry. But she was being interviewed, and she was asked about this concept of forced to vote. Now, forced to vote is a concept where they're saying Nancy Pelosi wants to be Speaker of the House. The so-called left-wing progressive Democrats who don't take corporate PAC money, blah, 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 can actually stop her from being Speaker. They have leverage against her. So the force to vote is saying, hey, either Nancy Pelosi does what we want and put Medicare for all on the floor for a House vote, or she doesn't get the speakership. Now, that's what you call using your political power for leverage. This is nothing new. This is not some radical concept. The Tea Party did it with the Republicans, and that's why the Republicans are terrified of the Tea Party and terrified of their base, because their base exercised power. They got rid of the establishment Republicans, kicked them out, and now Republicans are so scared of their base that they don't even want to tell their base that Donald Trump lost the election. That's how scared they are of their base. And actually, despite what you may think about Donald Trump, he actually knows the Republican base better than the Republican Party, because he actually is the Republican Party. He's just as unhinged and crazy as his base is, and they love him. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We may not agree with them politically, but that's the way it's supposed to be. Your base is you are supposed to represent your base. And if your base, if Medicare for All is getting 80% approval from your base, from the Democratic Party, and a plurality of approval from Republicans, that means that this is a popular policy. So what is the fucking reason why you won't bring it to the House floor? The only reason you can have is that you're corrupt, that you're paid and bought for by the pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare insurance industry. So what I think people are learning is that a lot of what is going on in politics is just basically kabuki theater. You know, Joe Biden is no better than Donald Trump. As it turns out, Joe Biden was instrumental in decreasing the one-time payment, which is really unacceptable anyway. It shouldn't be a one-time payment. It should be a monthly payment. But that's another story. Decreasing it from about $2,000 down to $600. He was instrumental in doing that. So what makes him any better than Trump? Why did voting Joe Biden into office mean anything other than the fact that you don't have to deal with Trump anymore and you know, his tweets? But in terms of policy, Joe Biden isn't doing anything radically different than Donald Trump is or was. So I say that to say, and I'm going to tie this back around to us, because you know, obviously this American political system has nothing to do with nationhood. It has nothing to do with land, infrastructure, nationhood. But what I'm pointing to is a general feeling that we could definitely take advantage of. And that's the disillusionment with voting, the disillusionment with politics in general, because a lot of people have dropped. The vast majority or the biggest demographic of people who don't vote in this country. Now, when we apply that to our people, and our people have more than enough reasons not to vote or not to be confident about this political system. The bottom line is, what do you see as the future for your people? What's your vision for the future? And is voting for politicians the solution to your problems? Because let me tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is there's absolutely, like, you can listen to anybody and all their bullshit. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is this. You have political leverage to keep Nancy Pelosi out of her speakership position. What's the downside? The downside is you tell her, listen, either you force a Medicare for all vote to the floor or you won't get the speakership. The downside is she says, okay, I'm not going to do that, and she doesn't get the speakership. So she's out of there. And you could put somebody else in there, and the same demands are going to be made on them. If you don't have putting Medicare for all or whatever other policies you want to present, that's left-wing policies that you think need to be passed, if you don't put these things to the floor, you're not going to get the speakership. That's what should happen. What's going to happen is that the left-wing so-called progressives in Congress are going to fall in line and vote with the establishment Democratic Party. They're going to vote for Nancy Pelosi, and then they're going to come to you with a bunch of fucking excuses about why they had to do it. One of the most popular excuses that they're going to use is, well, if we don't put Pelosi in, then we're going to get a Republican, which is a fucking lie. Because the Democrats control the House. So if you don't put in Pelosi, all that happens is you got to put in somebody else who's a Democrat. Another stupid argument that I hear about Medicare for all. Oh, well, if we put it to the House and it doesn't win, then they're going to tear it apart and say, da, 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 da. Listen, are you not realizing that the reason why it's popular is because your base and the American public are getting killed by the healthcare insurance industry? So do you really think that they're going to go? There's so much negative propaganda against Medicare for all right now. There's no pro Medicare for all stance on the media, and yet it's still the most popular policy amongst Democrats and Republicans. So what are you saying? And here's another thing. Oh, this is just performative theater. It doesn't really mean anything. The vote isn't going to pass, so then why do it? Oh, you mean like the Green New Deal? Because AOC particularly was saying something drastically different when it came to the Green New Deal. She knew, or at least she said that she knew it wasn't going to pass, and that wasn't the point. The point was to get it on the House floor and to see how many people are for passing this legislation. So you know who are your friends and who are your enemies. Wow, sound familiar? So this whole thing is just to let you know, man. A lot of people are heartbroken. A lot of people heard, Nina Turner, who's usually a straight shooter, and she was, going back and forth and not really willing to commit to a force to vote type strategy because she didn't want to, go against the progressives that are already in Congress, which basically is a way of saying I want to be in the club and I don't want to be against the club. And the club being the people that have power in the Democratic Party, because all of those Congress people have power, they have followings. And when you start off out the gate saying that you don't want to be against them, then that means that your issue is not the policy, your issue is the personalities and the team. You're on Team Democrat, and you don't want to be looked at as being, a traitor to your team. So you're not going to say the hard truths that usually go against your team. Number one, they just passed a stimulus bill that I think Trump is going to veto, which is crazy that Trump is to the left of leftists. He wants more money for Americans than leftists do, which is absolutely bananas. Even though I know that he has his own reasons for doing it, but it's a smart play. It's a smart strategy. And he comes out smelling like roses. It's too bad he's an idiot because, if he was smart, he could actually take advantage of this situation even more than he thinks he is. But that's an aside. These Democrats, actually the so-called progressives are Democrats because they're in the Democratic Party and they play for Team D. They're more concerned about backing their colleagues' play. It's sort of like cops. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody talks about the good cop, bad cop, and why if there's only just a few bad apples in the bunch, why do the few bad apples control the bunch and spoil the bunch? If you're a good cop, why don't you turn in the bad cops? Why? Because you don't want to be considered a traitor. So even though this person is a murderer and he's corrupt and he's bad, you don't want to go against him because you don't want to be perceived as a snitch. You don't want to be perceived as somebody that goes against the grain of what, the culture is in the police department. And it's the same thing with the Democratic Party. What difference does it make if you don't take PAC money if you refuse to challenge Nancy Pelosi, who's standing in the way of all of your progressive policies? And what does that do to your base? Your base becomes deflated. Your base becomes disillusioned. Your base becomes jaded. And either if they're very strong, they'll be involved in some other political, whatever strategy or movement, or they just fucking drop out and say, fuck you, which is what the majority of the American public have done. And can you blame them? That's why when I hear people berating people for not voting, are you serious? I understand completely why people don't vote. What's a mystery is why you still vote. What's a mystery is why you still support Democrats. What's a mystery is why you still support Republicans. What's a mystery is why you toe the mainstream talking points and narrative. So, I hate to say I told you so. But didn't I tell you so? Didn't I tell you that there's no difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party? If you really want to understand how American politics works, all you got to do is look at sports, because it's the same mentality. If you're a Giants fan or a Patriots fan or a Steelers fan or whatever fan, are you going to vote against your team? Even if their team is fucking up, you're still going to vote for your team. And if you understand it and look at it from that perspective, then you totally understand why people still vote for Democrats and why people still vote for Republicans and why people try to push this narrative that it's two different parties when actually there's only one. A corporatist mainstream party with the same goddamn policy positions. No difference. The only difference is one fucks you with no condom, raw dog, dominate, BDSM, all that shit. And the other one wants to put some wine and roses and candy down and light some candles up, but it still equals up to you getting fucked. So right now, the mood in this country and the mood amongst black people is complete apathy and jadedness. People feel that they don't really have anything that they can be a part of that's pure, that's honest, that's genuine, and that's sincere. We started the BAIO in 2015, I believe, when the first site was created. The BAIO as a concept was around during Barack Obama, when Barack Obama first got into office, which is in 2008, is where we were talking about land infrastructure, nationhood, and the concept of the BAIO. And then we started slowly over the years putting things on Facebook, putting things, on video and things like that. But the official start of it was in 2015. People say, well, you got to have a leader. How's that working out for you? Where's this charismatic leader that's pushing things to the next level that's going to take us to the promised land? Sounds to me like you're a Christian. Sounds to me like you're looking for Jesus. And it's funny, the people who are saying this are the biggest anti-Christians. But yet they're endorsing a Christian philosophy of a savior. BAIO said, no, you know who's the savior? You're the savior. If you want something done, what are you doing? Don't point to an individual. Don't point to the BAIO. Oh, the BAIO is the BAIO are its members. If the members aren't doing anything, the BAIO ain't doing nothing. So right now in its current form, what is the BAIO doing with its membership? Memberships are repatriating. Memberships are becoming boots on the ground in other countries. So currently, that's what the BAIO is doing in its current form. Will the BAIO do anything different in the future? Sure, depends on what the membership is doing. Are people who have skill sets bringing their skill sets into the BAIO and saying, hey, I see you guys need accountants. I'm an accountant. Hey, I see you guys need lawyers. I'm a lawyer. I always found it funny when people want to say, what's the BAIO doing? What's Facebook doing? Aren't you with Facebook? You signed up to Facebook. What's Facebook doing? What's Instagram doing? What's TikTok doing? What's Twitter doing? What are all these social media platforms that you guys stay on religiously? What are they doing? Well, the answer is they're doing whatever you're doing. So what are you doing on Facebook? What are you doing on Twitter? What are you doing on Instagram? What are you doing on TikTok? What are you doing on Snapchat? And what are you doing on the BAIO website? Let that mull around in your brain for a little bit. Happy holidays to y'all guys. Happy New Year to you. I doubt if I do any other video before the year is out. But I just want to say that I appreciate all of my people who listen to me. If you took the time out of your life to listen to one syllable coming out of my mouth, I appreciate you. I'm actually trying to give away a book before the year is out, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen because I'm like 80 subscribers short of my 4,000K mark. And I doubt if I get 80 subscribers before the year is out. So we're just going to have to take this into the new year, hopefully. And like I said, every 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away a book because I feel the need to give back to y'all because you guys are actually out there listening to anything that I have to say because I don't feel I'm special. I don't feel that I'm anybody of importance that you should be listening to. So if you're listening to me, I really appreciate it. And on that note, I'll holler at you good people later. I don't know what exactly this video was about, but I guess I felt the need to run my mouth for a little bit, and I did that. So I guess that's what it's about. Talk to you later. Peace.
You can't compare to the status right here. Legendary worldwide, we can battle right here. Listen, Junior, I'ma tear back your wig. This ain't TV, but I'll show you what a fear factor is. Stop grilling me, and all that fronting is killing me. You leave me no choice but to hurt your feelings, G.
About to slap rappers around and bruise